Congratulations, everyone. We made it through Fosse Day. For the most part, the Fed kept rates the same this week. However, there are still a lot of financial events to go through. We're going to talk about that now. We're going to deal with it. Does this have a very bad effect on the markets now? For starters, I believe that most of the time, markets have already priced in the idea that the Fed will just keep rates the same. If he had actually cut rates today, I think it would have been a surprise. But we've known for a few days now that it wasn't going to happen. I've been telling you that rates won't go down in July. Since about the beginning of July, I've been saying it because the CME group said it would happen, and it was less than 5%. We knew it wasn't going to happen, but September is still a big deal. I'm going to talk about that now. I'm also going to talk about that. The big question, though, is whether Jerome Powell really did break. XRP, the cryptocurrency market, and even HBAR. Let's quickly look at some things. Bitcoin is still on top with a daily price change of just 0.1% and an Ethereum price change of 0.99% for the week. Bitcoin is still going around 118K. Ethereum is still going around 3,800 and XRP is still around $3.13. Not at all crazy. And finally, if we look at the market, most of it is still red. Every exchange was red except for Coinbase, which was only 0.48% red. After that, every exchange in the top 1,000 was red. There are almost no gains here. Just a few of these are not like the rest. As I already said, most of the time it's just a red day. Today is a red day. It was kind of like the markets were moving around a bit. There were also a few liquidations. This has been a disaster. In the last 24 hours, 146,519 buyers lost a total of $421 million. The biggest, which was one Ethereum long and worth $5.44 million, was wiped out totally after Powell said it was too early to predict a rate cut in September. A lot of people sold their risky investments. Yes, this is because he did say it was too early to say for sure if there would be another rate cut in September. Now, I think rates will go down in September. I'll explain why soon. But this is how the market has come back. To give you an idea, you can even see it in terms of the crypto market cap. Let's do the 30-day thing. I wish it showed us more of the rebound, but it's hard to see on this chart. But you can see the spike today, right? Fear and greed are still making people pretty optimistic, around 62 for greed, even with that. The market as a whole has been cooling off today, though they haven't really gained or lost much. In terms of the top 100, there wasn't even a crazy loss today. It was there 24 hours ago. Yeah, some of these gains are about 6% loses in terms of the real gains that were lost. Most of the time, it's around 9%. Once more, it was a pretty dull day at the market. No matter what, things have been pretty quiet, nothing too crazy. Of course, that's a good thing because, as we all know, volatility is crazy during FOMC meetings. When we did a wick down to about 116K, this is what the daily for BIC looked like. So earlier today was pretty crazy, but since then, we've kind of calmed down and been around 118K. We did drop to about $3.02 when XRP was on the daily. If we go to HBAR every day, we wick down to about 25 cents. Wasn't like the losses today, and even the big jumps up and down weren't anything out of the ordinary. But we have one here from Trump. Right now, President Trump is really heating up the Federal Reserve and drone power. Be mean to Sim for hurting the US. $850 million a year for each point of interest. If he does cut rates today, it will be too late for me to call him. They probably won't happen until September. Why is that? No one knows. Every point this man keeps making costs us $365 billion every year. Take a look at that. No matter how high the rates are, the good news is that we're still doing better than everyone else in the world. You can look at it here. The rates need to go down. You should know that this man's points cost us $365 billion every year. Think about that. One thing, $365 billion. We'll save $365 if you lower it by 1 point. There should be no interest from us. We're not, though. It's 38. Number 38, because of the Fed. The Fed is to blame. He did not do a good job. He has a meeting, though. I call him today, but it's too late. He's always too late. You know. Most likely won't do it, even if he does it today. I think they'll do it in September instead of today. Why is that? No one knows. But you already know that Europe has lowered their rates 11 times in the past few weeks. The good news is that we're doing better than everyone else in the world. Even though the rates are higher, no one is even close to what we're doing. People can't get loans or sell their homes because of the higher rates, which does happen to housing. And it would be great if they could. That's just another box to be checked. Very important to do that. Yes, please. Mr. President, listen, that's the reason why everyone thought Jerome Powell would lower interest rates. It seemed like Trump was putting him in a tough spot. Then BlackRock says that the Fed should also lower rates. It was clear that they would not do it in July. It doesn't matter what Trump says here because, once more, Jerome Powell isn't going to pay attention. No one is going to force him to cut rates, but September should be the main goal. There is a 43.2% chance of an ES in September, according to the CME group, right now. I think the chances of a September rate cut are going to rise as we get closer to September. That's because the September meeting is still a month and a half away. I think this is going to be a lot like 2024 in that there will be cuts in September, October, and December. We got the rate cut in November 2024 instead of October 2024. The only change is that there is no meeting in November this time. September and October are the main months here. There is a 63.8% chance of an ES in October. They say there's an 86.4% chance of an ES in December, which is still pretty early. We're now at 42.1%, then 63.8%, and finally 86.4%. In all of these months, I think the rate will go down. 3 cuts to end the year. Will it be 1 basis point? We'll have to wait and see. That's a huge deal for the market. That's 3% off the top for interest rates. I believe we are at about 6.5. So we'd be back to about 3.5%, which, again, retail sees as free money since loans have 3.5% interest. 3.5% could be for anything, like going out or getting a mortgage or car loan. That is incredibly cheap. A lot of people see it as free money. This would cause markets to flood these areas. We would see money right away because prices to go up in stocks, real estate, and crypto. This is why we're interested in what the Fed does next. Obviously, the dollar is the most important thing today. This news made a lot of people look at the dollar, and it has been going up over the last week. This is really going up, and it's the first big sign that the dollar is getting stronger again. I'm waiting for us to turn down this 99.83 level. I'd love for us to turn down this and start going back to the lows again, maybe at 97. That would be a huge risk for stocks. It would give risk on assets a lot more power. This is how the daily looks. For some reason, it looks like we're running into some trouble at this level. So, what we want to see is just that. From here, we want to see a sell-off. At this point, we don't want the dollar to get very strong. The dollar is something we will definitely be keeping a close eye on for the rest of this week and even into next week. But this is what should be looked at, and the Fed did make this go through the roof because, as we said before, when you hear we don't know about a rate cut in September, risks on assets don't seem as strong. In this market, that's where money starts to leave. That's where money starts to go back into the dollar. People look at things like money market funds and